So today is an experiment in 12 different ways that you can add texture to your watercolor paintings. Not necessarily for professional paintings, but more just for fun. If you'd like to stick around, I'll show you exactly how to do every single one. Hi, my friends, and welcome. I'm Tammy. Guys, we're gonna have so much fun with texture today. We're just gonna get right into it. We're gonna start with some turquoise on our palette. We're just gonna use random colors. I love color. The brighter the better. So we're just gonna take that lovely thick color, make sure it's a little bit runny enough that the paint is going to move. We're just going to add in our pretend square of color here. If the lines are a little wonky and that bothers you, I apologize. I just want to make sure that we get that lovely color on there, and we're not gonna be too careful about it. This is about having fun. I'm always saying it's not about perfection. None of this is about perfection, at least not how I paint. I also tend to be pretty messy. So if you didn't know that about me, well, now you know. But I also like to have so much fun. All right, make sure it's nice and wet. We're gonna take some rubbing alcohol here and a little bit of a Q-tip. We're just gonna dip in, and we're going to just start touching on our paper and seeing the effects that we can create with this really beautiful technique. Look at this. Some of these are gonna look like you're looking under a microscope. All right, the next one, we're just moving through this real fast. The next one here, I'm gonna use some pink paint. And this one is going to be the salt technique. So we're just going to add, again, a bunch of watery paint here. Look at that beautiful purple color. I love painting with color. I love painting with also an idea in my mind about what the whole point of this session is. So as a mental health therapist, I'm always loving to give little tidbits, little ideas here and there on self-care and how to do that kind of stuff. Today, we're gonna take our little salt. So to pause that, I'm gonna sprinkle our chunky salt across our paper. So this is gonna take a little bit of time to dry. It's gonna absorb some of that paint and color and leave us a really cool texture. All right, next we're gonna do dry brushing. So today, the idea is about gratitude. What is it that you are grateful for today? What is it that you would like to be thankful for? Is there a relationship that you can think of? And I almost went and started painting this whole thing. Dry brushing. We're taking our paintbrush, we're dabbing it on our paper or our rag, and we're just going to make some really cool texture. Letting that paint run out on our brush. This is gonna be really good if you're doing like a landscape, even water, and you want some of that white space to show through. All right, next one, we're doing water balloons. Like I told you, we're gonna move through this pretty quickly. Got some lovely orange-red paint. So just be considering, what is it that you're grateful for? Who are you grateful for? Is there somebody that, you can consider today as maybe someone to reach out to and say, listen, I'm so grateful for you being in my life. I appreciate the things that you've done for me, or the relationship you've created for me, or the way you've taken care of me. Being grateful has a huge effect on our mental health, because often we are very bogged down with a lot of worries and fears. But when we replace those negative thoughts with something positive and gratefulness, it helps us to turn our whole attitude around. Taking fresh water, we're just gonna create some little blooms. When you put water back into the already fresh paint, it's gonna start pushing some of that paint away. And when that dries, you'll see the effect of that. Okay, now we're gonna do our rice one. I'm gonna take some lovely yellow. A lot of these things are gonna take some time to dry, and that's okay. So we're just gonna add in our yellow space here. I'm just dipping into the palette, into the well, grabbing that color straight up. So if you're thinking about who you can be grateful for today, just sit down, take a few moments, and maybe that person will just come to mind. See how you can reach out to them and thank them for what they've done for you. Taking some rice, guys. I have a little bowl of rice. We're just gonna sprinkle that rice over here. Actually, you know what? Just to be safe, a little extra paint can't hurt. The whole idea here is that we need a lot of liquid for that rice to soak up and absorb. We'll come back to this once this is done. Last but not least, for this one, we're doing 12, guys. This is the last on this page, but we're doing way more than this. So get ready. I'm gonna do this green again. And I love this exercise. Okay, so now I'm going to take the same thing, make our little square. Here we go. We're working fast today because we want to do a bunch of textures. So when you're doing your watercolor painting, think about how these textures might work in your design. You know, how can you utilize some of these marks, especially you'll see them once they're dry. How can you utilize them to create some really interesting marks in your painting? All right, we're taking a piece of plastic wrap here. We just sort of crinkle it together and squish it down on our painting. And this is one of my favorites actually. Take a little bit more over here, crinkle it up, squish it down. A lot of these take a little bit of time to dry, but once they do, you see some amazing effects from them. And I promise those will be things you're wanting to do over and over, and maybe even show your friends. All right, so we'll let these dry and we'll get another piece of paper while it's drying and do the other 6. So the next one we're doing is a sea sponge. So I have a little sea sponge here. You can take one that has less texture if you'd like. And I'm simply going to dip into my purple paint. We're gonna make some lovely marks here on our paper. You can use this for foliage on a tree. You leave that white space, or go really thick and heavy. You can even dip into your saturated paint here and make it darker. All right, the next one we're gonna do, lifting color. I'm gonna take my turquoise paint. Actually, this is a teal. It's a little bit darker than the turquoise that we had before. And lifting color is a really important skill in watercolor because sometimes you create a mark that you don't really want to be there, or sometimes you intentionally want to lift up some color because it helps look like you've made a highlight, like you're playing with light in your painting. And so we're just going to cover up this whole space, and then I'll show you how to lift that color out. So now I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to squeegee off the side, and then I'm going to just dab it on my towel, and I'm going to lift some color. So I'm just simply going to take my brush, clean it off, lift some color over here. You can see how this might make a really cool abstract painting too. And if it's not lifting very well, you can scrub it, which is just kind of going back and forth on here and taking off that paint. And this is going to be a lovely, lovely skill to do, like I said. When you're making a highlight, for example, in a leaf, and you want to make it look like that is a lighter green on the top of the leaf or wherever it is, and then maybe you can add in some darker to make it look like that's a shadowy side. So now we're going to play around with thread. It's another medium that can absorb some of the paint and the liquid, the water, and once it dries can give us some really cool effects. So I want you guys to think about that gratefulness question I gave you before, and think about, what is one thing you are grateful for, and maybe there's a list that you can make, and just take a little bit of time every day to add 2 or 3 items. Read the list over when you're feeling down. It's going to encourage you. And I encourage you to encourage others as well to make a list, an ongoing list, so that you can focus on what's going well, what's going positively in your life. And so we're just going to lay down these pieces of thread, and we'll press them down in a minute after I have them placed. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like, hit my subscribe button, and the little bell so that you're notified whenever I go live or I have videos. And then leave me a comment down below letting me know what is your favorite technique so far, or if you have any other texture ideas that you've used before and you'd like to pass on. Maybe I'll use it in another video sometime. I'm going to add a little bit more paint to this. And I want to let you guys know too that all the techniques that we're doing here today all come from 5 different shorts that I created, and I will link those all below if you want to take a look at the shorts. The first one of which was actually the one that went viral on TikTok, Instagram, and here on YouTube. So I think it has 8 million views or so here on YouTube, which is kind of nuts. So anyway, link those down below so you guys can look at those, share them, enjoy the texture. It's just maybe easier than sitting through this really long video. Get it all in under a minute. So painting some orange now. We're gonna play around with the dish soap. I do have to say too, some of these things are not really great for your paintings if you're going to make something that you're gonna sell. it might actually contribute to breaking down the piece later on. So this is really about play and having fun. There's even some things you can do with sugar. Sugar can cause mold and attract bugs at times. So again, this is all purely for fun. Don't take it too seriously. It's lighthearted play and great for kids. So dish soap, you just take it. It's going to resist. It's going to push the paint away. And let's try this little big blob here. Whoa, look at how that shot across there. That's crazy. I didn't expect that. Just push that paint away. We'll just do a little bit of a line and see what happens. That's amazing. So that'll take a little bit to dry, but it's just pushing that color away, creating a cool design underneath. All right, we've got 2 more here. Card scratching is pretty fun. I enjoy doing that one a lot. So we'll do that one next. I have some blue here. I'm just dipping into whatever blue floats your boat. The colors don't matter so much as the joy in your heart and having a lot of fun. I always have to mention to you guys that I teach watercolor over on Patreon, and it starts at $2.50 a month for exclusive bonus content, tutorials, that kind of thing. I also do live streams, art prints, digital print files, traceables with the tutorials. So it's a little fun community. We have a private chat community too. Link is in the description if you're interested in checking out what I do over there. As a mental health therapist, I also talk about self-care and that kind of thing, hoping to promote that so we can have happier, healthier lives. So just want to put that out there if you hadn't heard me say that before. All right, adding in a little bit more blue. And we're just going to take credit card, in my case, a little Costco card, and we're just going to try to scratch into this. So using a lot of pressure here, we're going to make some marks. A lot of pressure. So you can do the broad side of it like that and then wipe it off. You could do the corner, but just adding in, this is really fun to do, not with these giant strokes, but I do like to use it for branches, for trees, if you're doing a thinner one. So that's really a fun way to do things. And then my last one, which is my favorite splatter, guys. And if you've seen any of my tutorials or you see me go live, you'll probably see me do some splatter, usually over flowers. I'm gonna take my pink paint. It's a simple one to wrap up this whole series of 12. Load your brush with watery paint and just tap onto your paper. I'm gonna splatter on other parts too. That's okay. And if you want to do a bigger brush, you might get bigger marks. More paint, bigger marks. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for being here. We will have this dry and we'll take a final look when it's all done. All right, here are the final results of the 12 textures we played around with in watercolor today. As you can see, I had to tape it all down. These guys, I'll be able to press them later, but they're starting to buckle because of all the liquid we used. So for demonstration, wanted to make sure they're flat. So we have our rubbing alcohol, our salt. Let's do a little ASMR at this point to remove this salt. As you can see, this lovely, bloomy texture that has really feathery, soft edges. If you did a little less salt, you might see more of those little bursts, kind of like snowflakes. Dry brushing, water blooms, rice, more ASMR. Lovely little texture that's left behind. And our plastic wrap. Oh, look at these beautiful markings the plastic wrap left behind. I love that. We have this kind of marbly look, splotchy look from the sea sponge, lifting color, and then of course our thread, these lovely little lines underneath that are really fun. And you can do even more squiggly pieces of thread if you wanted to make more squiggly lines. Our dish soap, card scratching, splatter. So the imagination is limitless when you think about all the cool paintings you can create with these textures. So again, check me out on Patreon if you want to see me teach watercolor to you. $2.50 a month, a base starting rate. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to do with some of these textures. Curious about your imagination. Thanks for being here, guys. Happy painting, and I'll see you in the next video.